Hi, I'm Jacinta,
Hi, I'm Vanessa.
and you are listening to or watching Strange Colony. Yeah, so we're just, in case you're a new viewer or listener, we're just a couple of shit-talking Aussies who happen to have an interest in Australian true crime. So,
Because we're
come
seen
along.
like that.
Yes, come along for the ride. Wow.
Oh, I knew you were going to do it.
I have to do it. It's an inside joke. And if you don't know what that means, it means you haven't watched enough of our stuff. So,
Go back.
do that.
Watch it all.
Do the thing. Anywho, today I will have to put out ahead of time a content warning because even though this is a brief one episode sitting, it is quite a disturbing case and does involve the death of a child. So if that's something that's going to trigger, and I can completely understand why it would, come back next week.
Yeah.
You're not talking about dead children next week, are you?
Oh, heck no.
No, we're good. So yeah, come back next week.
I'm really not a fan of covering children, to be honest.
No, that's fair. So, jumping right in, our case today centres around a man named Dante Arthurs. And the first question is, who is Dante Arthurs?
Who?
Well, it's funny you say that. It's funny you ask that question that I posed for you to pose back to me, because there's actually fuck all information on the man.
What?
Yeah. He is our perpetrator. And you know how normally there's a whole litany of backstory on the murderers and nothing on the victim. In this case, it's actually the reverse. But
For real?
For real. I will give you what I do know about Dante, what I could find out about him.
Mm-hmm.
So he was born on August 8th in 1984 in Rockingham, Western Australia, which makes him like 1
3
year
years older than me.
1 year younger than my husband. Yes.
Whoa. Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yes. Recent enough for him to be within our generation.
Oh.
Yes. So, a little shook. He is 180 centimetres tall. He was 90 kilo at the time of his arrest. So, average build for an Aussie male. Not slim, not overweight or anything like that. And he was a fruit and vegetable packer and lived with his parents prior to his arrest. Also worth noting, he does have a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome.
Okay.
But this was something found out during the course of his trial.
Oh.
Yes, it was one of those, the defense tried to use this as a competency claim. Anywho.
Pretty common for the era, though, in terms of mental illness. But anyway.
Common now, even.
Yeah.
I can also tell you, throw back to one of our older cases that we've already covered, he was also the reason that there was a public outcry to reintroduce the death penalty in Western Australia, which had been abolished in 1984. As I mentioned, we actually did cover the last recipient of the death penalty, which was the night caller, or Cook. Eric. I can never get those two names around the right way. There's an Eric and there's an Edgar. One goes before the other. I can't remember which. Cook, the night caller, who was executed in 1964. And I will put the little linky, the little boxy thing that goes up there. But yeah, so we covered that one. And since then, nobody's received the death penalty. But this case was that upsetting to the public that there was cries to reinstate the death penalty, and a significant amount of outcry for it too.
Wow.
So yes, that's all of the information I have on Dante Arthurs, particularly himself.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I am fucking serious, and I trolled through as much as I could, because you know how you get all these killers have all these profiles on them and everything, and he was like this as a child and like that as a child, or he grew up with no friends and stuff like that. Nothing. I can find nothing on him. No childhood anecdotes, nothing about his parents whatsoever, even though, as far as I'm aware, they still live in the area.
What?
No idea. He's just...
Oh my god.
Yes.
Normally every Tom, Dick and Harry has their friggin' say.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
I found that very jarring, but I dare say that's also part of what led into... There's conspiracy theories on this one.
Yay!
You'll like that.
I'm not a big believer in conspiracy theories, but I love hearing people's ideas on things.
Yes. Well, these ones were proven false, but they're decent. They are decent. I will give them that. There was enough merit to have warranted putting them out there in the first place.
Ooh.
So, yes.
Ooh.
But on the victim, one Sofia Rodriguez Urtea-Shu, there is actually a fair bit of information. Sophia was a gentle, polite, and respectful little girl. She was born on November 11th, 1997, to parents Gabriel and Josephine. Now, she was the third eldest of 4 children, very well loved at her school, Mater Christi Primary School Parish. She was petite, but absolutely loved singing and dancing. And her friends and parents would always say about how she had such a beautiful smile. Like, she had the kind of smile that would light up anybody. Like, she was just the most adorable little girl. I ummed and ahed about posting pics, but I think this one, I will be putting the pics out there because she needs to be remembered. She absolutely needs to be remembered. So, she obviously had... she had an older brother, she had an older sister, and she had a younger sister as well. Biggish family, one of those families where, like, aunts and uncles were involved as well. Like, it wasn't just little... Yeah. So, everything was great, everything was fine, she had a fantastic life, and then everything came crashing down. Yes.
I should have brought my unicorn to cuddle.
Yes.
I can tell this is going to be bad.
This is absolutely brutal. This is brutal. I'm going to have trouble getting through it, to be honest. But she deserves to have this said.
Yeah.
So, as I said, unfortunately, world came crashing down. And it happened at 4 p.m. Monday, the 26th of June in 2006. So that is how recent it is. Obviously, for those in the generation after us, that's probably not so recent. But for us, that's like...
It's 16 years ago, almost to the day.
As I say, we were teenagers.
Yeah, and 2 years later I became a mom.
Gulp.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that. So, on June 26th that year, she went to the Livingston Shopping Centre at Canning Vale with her uncle, her older sister, and her older brother. So they've just...
So she'd be like 9 if she was born... No. Yeah. She was born in 97, right?
She was born in 97.
Yeah.
She was... Yeah. 8.
8 or 9?
8.
Yeah.
8, because she was born in November.
Yep.
Yeah. So she's headed down to the shops with her brother, her sister, and her uncle. Now, Livingston is not like a big, huge shopping complex. It's like like down the shops, like just a little strip mall typey. It's mall, like a small mall.
Yeah.
I would say much like the ones I have in my town or you would have there. Like not the big, nothing like TTP or Westlakes for those who are Adelaide savvy. I don't have examples outside of my own ken, so... But yeah, not a huge mall, just a local suburb shopping mall.
Yeah.
And so they're at the shops and Sophie's like, I need to go to the toilet. And like many parents, myself included, you get to like the hall where the toilets go off and they run down the hall and you watch them head down the hall and you stay in the main area.
Yeah.
And especially when you have more than one child. Because, like, they're going that one, they're going that one. You're not going to hover outside the toilet door.
Yeah.
So you wait in the main area. And they, you know, they go, they do their thing, and they come back.
Yeah.
Except she didn't come back.
Oh, God.
So, unbeknownst to both her and her family, when she went down the corridor, so you go down the corridor and you turn a corner, and the women's toilets are around the corner. Now, she was actually followed down the corridor by Dante Arthurs. And as soon as she rounded the corner, because Dante actually worked at this shopping centre, as I said, fruit grocer, picker, packer type thing.
Yeah.
As soon as they rounded the corridor, he grabbed her from behind and dragged her into the disabled toilets, which were right next door to the female toilets.
Oh my God.
And locked the door behind them. Now, when she didn't come back straight away, her uncle's like, turned to her brother and gone, look, go check on her. You know, she's taken a bit. So her brother goes down, heads around near to where the female toilets are, and he's yelled out, you know, calling out to her, you know, why are you taking so long? Sophia, are you there? And not getting a response. And so he heard like a shuffling noise from the disabled toilets. And so he's tested the handle and he's knocked and he's called out her name again. But the door was locked. There was no response. So he went back to his family and he's like, look, she's not there. I can't find her. She's not responding. And so, of course, the family's now, oh, crap, now we've got to find Sophia. Where has she gone? And so they've gone into search mode, as you do. And so they've started searching centre-wide. And literally a few minutes later, like, they've searched the whole centre. It's not a big place. Like, there's not many places to look.
Yes.
So they've come back to the toilets again because they're like, well, maybe she just didn't hear you, right? And so her brother's been sent down the corridor again to go sus. And this time he noticed that the disabled toilet was open. What her brother walked into is something that no 14-year-old boy should ever have to see or find, especially his own little sister. So Gabriel, young Gabriel, I assume named after his father, found his little sister's body left naked and propped up against a wall with her clothing stuffed into the bin nearby. Her body had become so contorted during the attack and the removal of her clothing that both her legs had broken and her arm had been dislocated. In an attempt to muffle her cries, her throat had been severely compressed and her larynx was crushed. And she also had received a severe peroneal tear.
Oh, no. Mm.
The cause of death was given as a direct result of strangulation. And to put all this into perspective, between the time that she rounded that corner and Gabriel finding her, was 10 minutes.
Fuck. I have literally no words.
Yep. Literally grabbed, and that much damage done to her, and he's gotten away in a 10-minute time frame.
I also kind of want to vomit.
When I was reading a lot of this, I have had major panic attacks surrounding letting my kids go to the toilet since then. Because, as I said, I stand in the main area.
Yeah.
We've got 5 kids and one on the way. I can't hover between both toilets. I can't be in both toilets.
No.
And, yeah. The fact that it can happen that quickly, and also the fact that an attack that vicious, like to be able to do that much damage in that short an amount of time, because you've got to assume there's at least a couple of minutes he's got to use to get out.
Yeah, and there would be people walking past, so he's managed to
sneak out. So, yes. Unfortunately, the CCTV cameras in the corridor were inexplicably not functionable. And after a search of the centre failed to turn up the culprit, the entire centre was closed down and declared a crime scene, and no one was allowed to leave.
Good.
They didn't realise is that he'd already escaped. Like, he'd already gone. Right? Yeah. Initial investigations into the shopping centre did turn up a few suspects. That's concerning in and of itself. Like, there were enough people that had enough of a record or were known to the police that there was more than one person that they kind of go, oh, this could be the person, straight off the bat.
Oh.
Now, that did include Dante Arthurs, who was already known to the police after a sexual assault of another 8-year-old girl 3 years earlier.
Oh my fucking God.
Now, the police remained at the centre until 5 a.m. the next day. So, like, she left her family at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
By 4:30, they've got the police on the scene. The police were at that centre trawling for evidence and everything else until 5 a.m. the following day.
Oh, wow.
Yes. After which, they attended Arthur's parents' home, which happened to be a few hundred metres away. So,
yeah.
Local. So, after searching the premises, Arthurs was arrested and would be later charged with willful murder, this is important, 2 counts of sexual penetration of a child and deprivation of liberty, right? During his interviews with the police, Arthur did admit to digitally penetrating Sophia, but it couldn't be determined as to whether or not she was alive when this occurred. And his way of explaining what he did not add up with the damage done to her either, because he said he put one finger inside her.
Then why did she get a tear?
A severe tear. Not just a tear, like it was a severe perennial tear. That was the way it's been noted in every article as severe. So, the attack only lasted 3 to 5 minutes all up.
That's horrifying.
During which Arthurs actually heard young Gabriel at the door. So when Gabriel was knocking on the door calling out his sister's name, she was being brutalised on the other side of the door. But he kind of kept quiet and ignored it, and obviously Gabriel away.
Yeah.
It also couldn't be determined whether or not Sophia was alive at this point.
Ooh.
So at the end of this 3 to 5 minute attack, she was either left dead or dying on the floor as Arthurs escaped. Because Arthurs doesn't even know. So there was a reasonable amount of legal controversy surrounding this case, and I'll lead with the most relevant bit. Like, as mentioned previously, Arthurs was known to the police due to an investigation previously of a sexual assault on an 8-year-old girl 3 years prior.
So he has a type.
It was confirmed by Western Australian Police Commissioner Carlo Callahan and the Director of Public Prosecutions that Arthurs was arrested for the assault. However, the charges were dropped due to insufficient evidence and incorrect police interviewing techniques. After Sophia's murder in 2006, the 2003 case was reopened, and it was found that there was physical evidence that had been overlooked in the 2003 case. And it wasn't just like something small, like a hair or something. The shorts that Arthurs had worn during the 2003 attack had trace amounts of the victim's blood on it.
Oh, that is so aggravating.
It hadn't been tested.
Even more aggravating.
Mm-hmm. So, as you can safely assume, the public was absolutely outraged over this egregious oversight.
Yeah.
They were, like, frothing at the mouth over what they considered to be police incompetence.
Understandably so.
As for the proceedings themselves, the family couldn't bring themselves to attend. They couldn't do it. So they had two representatives, members of the Mater Christi Catholic Primary School Parish, where Sophia had attended school. So the head priest of the parish, which is Father Brian Rosling, he helped the family cope with the massive wave of media that came along with everything. And Paul Litherland, who was a parent of one of Sophia's classmates and also a Western Australian police officer, he represented the family and set up all the fundraising events. Would you believe, though, like, despite the fact that this has gone down the way it's gone down, Sophia's parents have never said a bad word about the police. They have expressed that they were disappointed and that, you know, there was the chance that if things had been picked up sooner, that maybe their daughter would still be alive. But at the same time, they also recognise that that might just not be the case. So they're very ambivalent. Wow. I would not be as gracious as they are. Oh, that's just...
You certainly would not be.
No, I'd be baying for blood. But that's okay. They had lots of other people baying for blood on their behalf.
Yeah.
So on March 7th in 2007, Arthurs pleaded not guilty to all 4 counts levelled at him, and he was remanded in custody.
Okay.
Problematically, yet again, the bulk of the interviews with Arthurs by the police were ruled as inadmissible in court on the grounds of persistent importunity or sustained or undue insistence or pressure.
Okay, and in layman's terms?
In layman's terms, the police harassed him into a confession and therefore it wasn't useful in court.
Okay.
And this was the second time they'd done that with him. I mean, I get it. Like,
beat my head on that door.
I mean, I get it. Like, there would be a shit ton of emotion tied to that, but I would think that that would be all the more reason to make sure you did everything perfectly by the book. Like, it was one of those things where WA police got a little bit too gung-ho, and as a result, they kind of botched the investigation a little bit there. But there's no saying that they didn't put in the legwork.
Yeah.
It's just they got a little bit ahead of themselves and they made the same mistake in 2006 that they did in 2003. But
Right.
there was enough physical evidence this time. Thank fuck. Or
Yay.
not, but yeah. Yay, but not yay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, of course, the argument of incompetence to stand trial came up after a forensic psychologist diagnosed Arthurs with Asperger's syndrome. Yeah.
I have opinions.
I have major opinions. Would you care to share yours?
A person with Asperger's or Asperger's, whatever you want to pronounce it, would
So it's not even
still...
a thing anymore, is it?
No. Most things come under the autism spectrum disorder banner. It also depends on your diagnosing doctor at the time as well.
Yeah.
But they can still learn right from wrong.
Exactly that. It's the same for me as when people claim mental health issues for incompetence. Like, you are no less responsible for your actions, and nor should you be held any less accountable for your actions because of any condition or mental health issue that you may have.
Yeah. And sometimes people with mental health issues, and I know a lot with autism, Asperger's, ADHD, have issues with like impulse control, emotional regulation, and all that sort of stuff. But that just means that they have to work harder to control those things, and that's on them. Yes, it sucks, but that's life.
Yes. Yes, you are still accountable for your ish, regardless.
All of that.
And
all of that.
We say that as people who are spectrumed, have kids on the spectrum, have extensive histories of mental health issues. So this is not just a neurotypical person who's lived an easygoing life, turning around and judging people who are neurodivergent or suffer from mental health issues. We know these issues on a personal level.
Yes.
We live these issues. So
yes, every damn day.
And there are still areas in my past that I am truly ashamed of, and I will probably never completely atone for.
Likewise, but
that doesn't mean I didn't do them. Doesn't mean I am not accountable for them.
Yep.
Yep. All of that.
All of that.
All of that. But yes, so the incompetence argument is one that genuinely pisses me off.
I want to punch the person who suggested it.
I can understand it.
I have impulse control.
Because you've worked on that.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, I can understand in cases of severe schizophrenia or alternate identity personality disorders and that sort of thing. Which
because they are literally out of their mind.
Exactly. That's not the same as having an impulse control disorder or, having a processing issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, it's always, I feel like it's a grasping at straws tactic that defense attorneys use, and I think it's detrimental to the stigmatization of people who are on the spectrum and people who do have mental health disorders.
Yes.
Rah.
You say things so eloquently. I am still very much at point of like, rah.
That is me.
I can't articulate things as well as you can, and it annoys the crap out of me because I know what I want to say, but I just can't there.
That is
it works up here, but here doesn't connect to here.
As I said, that is me going raw. That is my word vomit right there. I swear, the more word vomity I get, the bigger words I get.
My rah is like swearing and like name calling and shit. Like I have to work really hard once I get agitated to actually be able to speak things out.
Articulate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my point of where I have to work really hard.
But I needed that little soapbox moment. I think you did too. It kind of is like a little bit of a taking us out of what is a very painful thing to listen to and discuss.
Oh, thank you for bringing me back to reality.
I'm sorry, I have to, because we do actually have to get back on track. But when we get to the courtroom stuff, I'm good there. I can just kind of go
Yeah.
I'm listing off details now. I'm not emotionally involved like I was during the attack portion of things, because that's just... So aside from that being one bump in the road, one little bit of controversy surrounding the case, there's also the fact that given the extensive media coverage, because it was like heavily covered at the time, they decided against using a jury at the trial.
Okay.
They did not believe that it was possible to get an impartial jury.
Probably true.
Oh, yeah. Like, I would have gone and, like, put that bastard in a fucking electric chair.
Yeah.
So, the case was overseen by a judge alone, which...
Okay.
I don't know how they do their jobs. Like, you've got to be like... This is the letter of the law. Like, I couldn't freaking do it.
Yeah.
So throughout the period of time between, I think we said March 2007, didn't we? Yeah. March 2007, where he'd entered his not guilty pleas on the 4 counts that were leveled at him, discussions between the director of the public prosecutions and Arthur's lawyers regarding his plea status continued. Through all of this, all the hullabaloo and the media stuff and the incompetence moment, all the way up till August the same year. So 5 months. 5 months, they're just like behind the scenes.
Wow.
They did ultimately reach an agreement. And on September 17th in 2007, Arthurs pleaded guilty to the Supreme Court to charges of murder and unlawful detention. Note, it is murder, not willful murder. That is relevant. I will get to it. The 2 counts of sexual penetration of a minor were removed. And here is why. You cannot be charged with molesting a dead child.
I'm angry.
They could not determine if Sophia had been alive when it happened.
Ooh.
And therefore, he was not charged with it. Worse, and this is where the willful murder versus murder comes into play, it couldn't be proven that Arthurs had intended to kill Sophia.
Okay.
Because the reason that she was strangled was because he was trying to muffle her cries, and he crushed her throat in the process. This dropped the charge from willful murder, which is murder with intent, to murder, or manslaughter. On November 7th, 2007, Arthurs was sentenced to life in prison for murder, but with a non-parole period of 13 years.
Is that all?
And also an extra 2-year sentence for the deprivation of liberty. That's all they could do. After his conviction, it was revealed that Arthurs had also been under investigation by British police for sexually assaulting another girl in 2001, but he had left for Australia before he can be put into an identity parade, which is also a lineup. Yeah. So he managed to skip the country before he got put into a lineup.
Oh, wow.
It was also found, after trial was complete, that Arthurs had been stalking and keeping files on at least 10 other local girls, including 11 and 13-year-old sisters in one family. he had even gone so far as to contact those girls' uncle, whose address and phone number he had, along with the names of the uncle, the girls' cousins. Like, he's keeping dossiers on them.
Dude, creepy.
So he contacted the girl's uncle via phone in an attempt to gain the girl's home address. That family's friend's daughter was also on the list of girls that he kept files on.
Oh, shit.
Every girl had their own specific file, and every girl was under the age of 15.
So gross.
Yeah. Like, this is not a processing issue. This is not an impulse control issue. This was premeditated. This was planned out.
Yeah.
Before I get into like the legacy of the fallout of this murdering case, I do have to make a slight detour to mention the rumors or conspiracy theories. And yes, by a slight detour, I mean we're just like almost chucking a Yui here back to the start of where the case was brought in. So, rumours have been circulating about the case between when the murder happened and 2006, right? 2007, beginning of 2007, sorry. There were strong rumours floating about that Arthurs was in fact Robert Thompson, who is one of two 10-year-old boys who was responsible in Britain for murdering a then 2-year-old James Bulger in 93. So this was like, have you not heard of this case?
No.
Oh my God, it scares the absolute crap out of me. So basically what happened is in 1993, 2-year-old James Bulger in the UK was walked away from his mother by two 10-year-old boys when she was not looking. And he was brutally tortured and murdered by these two 10-year-old boys.
God.
Like, it's, as far as I'm concerned, the most horrific case I've ever read in my life, just because the perpetrators were 10.
Yeah.
And, like, the amount of torture, I can't even, like, this needed a trigger warning. That needs a whole ass fucking, you need acid to burn your eyes out after reading what that poor toddler went through at the hands of these psychotic little boys.
Shit. Ugh.
I will not go into that, but
Thank
it's
you.
possibly because of the fact that he'd been in the UK, possibly because of the fact that, as I said before, you can't get any information on him.
Yeah.
That it was suggested that after serving his prison sentence, Robert Thompson had been given a new identity, transferred to Australia as part of like a prisoner swap program between the two countries.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Is that even a thing?
Apparently it was at one point.
That's really weird.
Well, it's the idea that if a certain well-known criminal who has served out their sentence is not able to have a life of anonymity once they leave, then they go somewhere else.
Okay.
I mean, never mind that Robert Thompson was supposed to be, I think, 2 years older than Dante Arthurs, but either way, the rumours circulated so much that in June 2006, the Western Australian and Australian Federal Police released a statement that Arthurs was not Thompson.
Oh, wow.
Like, they had to confront this one head on. Like, no, clearing the air, this is not the way it happened. Also, the British High Commission in Canberra issued a media release stating, quote, there's nothing between the man arrested in Western Australia and the individuals involved in the James Bulger case.
Okay.
Yeah. And they also stated that Australia had not taken British convicts since 1868. So that myth is officially debunked.
Okay.
there's still corners of the internet where it's floating around.
There always will be.
Yes. But honestly, when I looked at the pictures of Dante Arthurs and the two boys involved in the Bulger case, it's actually the other one that he looks more like, not Robert Thompson.
Okay.
Whose name I can't remember, but that dude, I think the reason that they thought it was Robert Thompson and not the other one is that the other one, after being released, was convicted of something else.
Okay.
And then re-entered the prison system.
Okay.
Whereas nobody knows what happened to Robert Thompson.
Oh.
After. He just disappeared. But, yes. So that was my little detour into conspiracy theory town.
Okay. We always like visiting there. Always happy to leave, though, too.
Very, very happy to leave. Come back to the horrific reality that already exists. We don't have to make up horrific realities. But, of course, there's got to be the question of, like, surely some legal changes were made after this. Right?
Were there?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is possibly part of why Sophia's parents are as gracious as they are about it, because they and their supporters campaigned to make significant changes to the way things are processed. So when the charges against Arthurs were dropped for willful murder, which, by the way, willful murder or murder with intent had a maximum non-parole period of minimum non-parole period of 15 years and a maximum of 19 years, right? So if you deliberately killed someone, you're in there for at least 15 years. I know you're cringing, but it's about to get worse. Murder, which is what he was charged for, has a minimum parole period of 7 years. Maximum of 14. So they gave, the judge gave him 1 year off of the absolute maximum non-parole period he could. Yeah. People were understandably, yes, absolutely. Understandably, people were horrified at the idea that not only would they not be able to see him executed, because they were still pretty keen on that.
I'm still pretty keen on that, not gonna lie.
But that he could have only spent 7 years in prison. Well, 9 if you count the 2 years for deprivation of liberty. But yeah. Through the then Attorney General Jim McGinty, Sophia's family and supporters petitioned for the laws to be changed to reflect the seriousness of the crimes. So the charges of willful murder and murder were repealed, and in their place was a single charge of murder to impose more severe penalty options. Now, the distinction between intent and non-intent is still included, but there is an ability to impose a never-to-be-released clause in the game. I'm assuming this is mostly in the case of intent. And new minimums for each were imposed as well. So if you've got the distinction of murder with intent, there is up to 20 years of non-parole now in Western Australia. And murder without intent or manslaughter has the option of up to 15 years. 15 years. So that way it's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Adding to this, the family and supporters also petitioned to have a public sex offender registry made available. Now, it is something that had come up previously, comes up everywhere quite frequently. But lawmaking officials had dragged their feet for years for fear of vigilante responses threatening the lives of offenders who'd already served time for their crimes. Now, whatever opinion we may or may not have on that, let me put it this way. If that was available, the Snowtown murderers would have had a lot bigger a list. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It is a double-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword. However, in 2011, in November, the government of Western Australia passed legislation through the lower house for a register. Now, serious and repeat offenders do have their names and suburbs, but not addresses, published on the public site. and parents are able to check if those that come into contact with their children regularly have any prior records by providing the police with that person's details.
Okay.
So they can like literally get someone looked into, say like, does this person have freaking history? Please take the details, go suss it out, yes or no. On a more heartwarming note, Sophia's school fundraised over $250,000 to build a memorial to Sophia and all Western Australian children who have had their lives stolen by criminals.
I'm not crying, you are.
I'm not yet, but if you keep that shit up, I will be. God damn it. They constructed the Chapel of the Innocents in 2008, and it is where Sophia's ashes have been laid to rest. Yes. So that's like a little bit of a... Oh.
Yeah.
But I'm going to piss you off again now.
Why the roller coaster of emotion?
I don't. It's because this is how we roll. So, currently, what is currently the case? If I don't think you stopped to do all the math, did you?
No, I'm too emotionally invested.
Right. So Arthur's initial non-parole period ended in June 2019.
Oh my God.
And he did indeed apply for parole. A public petition had been running around for about a year prior, and it was factored in, and he was denied parole by both the board and the Attorney General, currently Quigley.
Okay.
That being said, and this is where you remember how I said to you, like I was umming and ahhing about how long Ned was going to take, because this one's a little time sensitive.
Yeah.
His next appeal is June 26th this year.
You're kidding.
Nope, I am serious, and that is the point where I need to bring up there is actually a petition now that has been circulating to keep him in prison. So I'm going to link that in the description for everything.
I was going to ask if you could link that.
Absolutely. So, I will be pushing this one a bit harder on our socials than I have our other cases, just because of the urgency to get as many signatures on this, because I mean, we can't bring the death penalty back, but this man should never see freedom.
And it gives something back to the parents who did something so amazing with the power of their grief.
Absolutely.
They changed the legal system for
the whole community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, I will link it. I've already signed it on behalf of our podcast.
Thank you.
As I say, I will be getting everybody I know to sign it as well.
Excellent.
Yes. So yes, let's chip in and make sure that this son of a bitch never sees freedom. Quite frankly, yes. I'm not going to pull any punches on that one.
Yeah.
He should never see the light of day.
Absolutely not.
Yep. But yes, so that's where I come to the conclusion. Please, people, please sign the petition. Please.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
I need a shower with some steel wool and a wire brush and some acid maybe.
Yeah.
I actually feel dirty listening to that.
Fair.
That poor girl.
I've actually spent a good deal of time crying on this one. Yeah.
Fair. You have a daughter. Highly relatable.
I have a daughter and I have a son who is the same age Sophia was when she died. Yeah.
Yeah.
And both of those idiots run off for me to the toilet all the time.
It is mortifying. And even just as a person with empathy, I don't wish that upon anybody.
Nobody.
No one should ever have to live through that.
No.
Or go through that or Oh,
And honestly, that is not a man. That is an animal.
yeah.
Like, that level of frenzied attack, that is like a rabid dog.
Yeah.
Like, I am normally not one for the death penalty because I've got that whole who are we to decide who deserves to live and die. But honestly, in this case, I have to admit, I look at it as, would you put down a rabid dog?
Well, we don't have rabies in Australia.
Well, yes. Exactly. Sorry.
He might infect the rest of the population. How is prison working out for him?
I told you I had nothing on him.
Damn.
Nothing. Don't even know which prison he went to. I've got nothing. And I even listened to other podcasts on this one, which I don't usually do because despite making one, I'm not hugely into listening. I don't want them to affect what I have to say.
Yeah.
On cases that I'm covering. But on this one, I did, just desperate to find some information I didn't have. And there was one that had a good deal of information that I don't in here, but all of that was surrounding Sophia and her family.
Yeah.
So I didn't end up incorporating. But yeah, no one seemed to have anything on him. Like, none of the news articles, not even like the Murderpedia type sites. What I gave you was the brief rundown I could find on Wikipedia. There's nothing. There's far more focus in his Wikipedia page on the changes to the laws that happened as a result of this case. Like, it's like he's not even a real person.
Yeah. Or his lawyer was really good at getting a lot of things shut down.
This is possible, but, I mean, he wasn't... How young was he? 84. So he was in his early 20s.
Yeah.
At the time when it happened. 23? 23 when he was sent to prison.
Yeah.
That's the thing that gets me as well, is the fact that even 6 years before that, he'd been investigated for something similar. Like, he was 23 when convicted. That means he was 17 when the British police were looking into him.
Yeah.
That's another level of creepy for me. I find that when I think about pedophiles and child murderers, I think of like really creepy old men mostly.
Yeah, I was going to say dirty old man.
Yes. Or like at least like dad type ages, like late 30s,
like the really sleazy dad types.
Late 30s through to like 50s.
Yeah.
And yes, I will admit I do primarily consider men when I think of this.
But we are aware that women do offend.
Absolutely. I actually follow a TikToker who his whole profile is that he has outed his mother for the sexual abuse he suffered throughout his entire childhood. And yeah, some pretty heavy shit there. But
that poor dude, also power to you putting it out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I'm aware that women are perpetrators, but you know, it's not as common, so it's not what comes into mind. I definitely don't think fresh-faced 23-year-old.
No.
Like when we consider like we're in our mid-30s, and and like we're like, but those people, like that age group is nearly, not quite, not yet, nearly young enough to be our children.
Yeah.
So considering that as the age bracket for perpetrators just blows my fucking mind.
Yeah. Same. I wish I had like something really awesome to add to like as a little palate cleanser or like a happy note to leave it on, but there's nothing that comes to mind. Like,
oh, chicken salt is a South Australian invention. Found that out last week. Invented in the 1970s in Gawler. And is as Aussie as Vegemite, and as far as I'm concerned, should replace Vegemite as what we present to the world as our staple food.
No.
More people like chicken salt than Vegemite.
Yeah, but chicken salt has to go on chips or something.
Vegemite has to go on toast or something. You can't just
you got me
Vegemite.
there.
They're both condiments.
Not gonna lie, I may or may not have eaten Vegemite straight out of the tube.
Can you tell I hate Vegemite?
And I love it.
Look, we already established during the Ned Kelly thing, I'm a shitty Australian. Like, I'm a terrible Australian. And I have no taste. We've established that over the course of the entire series. There you go. On that slightly happier note, because chicken salt makes me happy.
Having no taste makes me happy.
That's not strictly true. If you would like to contact us, you can catch us on our socials. On Instagram, we are Strange Colony 2.0. On Twitter, we are at Strange Colony, or our Gmail account, which is strangecolony@gmail.com. And if you would like to switch between platforms, we are available on YouTube, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts is something I'm working on, and Soundchaser. I don't know. We're across most platforms, so whatever floats your boat, you can find us there. And if you can't, tell me, and I will change that. And in the meantime, everybody stay safe, stay sane, and I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.
I love you. Bye. Mwah.